Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hi to my beloved lecturer and to all my friends. So today we group 3 are going to present to all of you for the integrated case of the topic basic capital budgeting. So our group consists of 5 members, which is Najia, Atira, Elinda, Farahin and Amalin.
Question A. What is capital budgeting? Are there any similarities between a firm's capital budgeting decision and an individual's investment decision? Capital budgeting is the process of analyzing addition to fixed asset. Capital budgeting is important because, more than anything else, fixed asset investment decision chart a company's cost for the future. Conceptually, the capital budgeting process is identical to the decision process used by individuals making investment decisions. These steps are involved. First, estimate the cash flow. Interest and maturity value or dividends in the case of bond and stock. Operating cash flow is the case of capital projects. Second, assess the riskiness of the cash flow. Third, determine the appropriate discount rate based on the riskiness of the cash flow and the general level of interest rate. This is called the project cost of capital in capital budgeting. 4. Find the PV of the expected cash flow or the asset rate of return. 5. If the PV of the inflow is greater than the PV of the outflow, which means the NPV is positive, or if the calculated rate of return, which means the IRR, is higher than the project cost of capital, so accept the project. Question B. What is the difference between independent and mutually exclusive project, and what is the difference between projects with normal and non-normal cash flow? Projects are independent if the cash flow of one are not affected by the acceptance of the other. Conversely, two projects are mutually exclusive if acceptance of one impact adversely the cash flow of the others. That is, at most one of two or more such projects may be accepted. Projects with normal cash flow have outflows or costs in the first year, followed by a series of inflows. Project with non-normal cash flow has one or more outflow after the inflow stream has begun. Question C. 1. Define the term net present value. What is its project's NPV? The net present value is a method of ranking investment proposals using the NPV, which is equal to the present value of the project's free cash flows discounted at the cost of capital. There is a formula for NPV and example to calculate the NPV. After the calculation, we got NPV for project L is 18.79 and NPV for project S is 19.98. 2. What is the rationale behind the NPV method? According to NPV, which project should be accepted if they are independent or mutually exclusive? The NPV explains how much a project contributes to shareholder wealth. The largest the NPV, which is equal to the present value, means a higher stock price. If the NPV is a positive value, the project is acceptable. If the projects were independent, both projects would be accepted because both NPVs are positive. Both projects would increase shareholder wealth. And since the cash flows of one project will not affect the other project, both will be accepted. But if they are mutually exclusive, then project S should be selected as it has higher NPV. 3. Would the NPVs change if the WACC change? Explain. The NPV of a project is dependent on the WACC used. Therefore, if the WACC change, the NPV of each project would change. The NPV declines as the WACC increase, and the NPV rises as the WACC decrease. If a firm has a low WACC, their projects have the capability to accept more projects, since their NPV is more likely to be positive.
Now for question D. Define the term internal rate of return. what is each project's IRR. IRR is the discount rate that forces the NPV to equal 0. To find the IRR using a calculator, firstly input all the one's project cash flows into the calculator and then press the IRR button to find the answer. For project L, the IRR is 18.13%, and for project S, the internal rate of return is 23.56%. How is the IRR on a project related to a YTM on the bond? They are the same thing. Yield to maturity is the discount rate that forces the PV of the cash inflows to equal the price of a bond. When a bond is hold to maturity, we will earn the YTM on our investment. What is the logic behind the IRR method? According to IRRs, which of the projects should be accepted if they are independent or mutually exclusive? Internal rate of return is the estimate of the project's rate of return. So if the IRR is more than the cost of capital, then we will gain profit. However, if the IRR is less than the cost of capital, then we will incur loss. For this case, if independent, accept both projects. And if the projects are mutually exclusive, accept the project with the highest IRR, which is project X at IRR 23.56%. Would the project's IRRs change if the WACCs change? Explain. The IRR will not change if the WACC change, because the WACC is not included in the equation for finding IRR, because it forces the NPV to equal 0. Question E. Draw NPV profiles for project L and S. At what discount rate do the profiles cross? Firstly, you can use a Google spreadsheet or Microsoft Excel to build your NPV profiles. The first step is to find the NPV value for project L and project S at different discount rate. For example, 0%, 5%, 10%, 50%, and 20%. Using the chart tool and by extracting the NPV values that you get for the different discount rates, you will come up with this chart. Next, at what discount rate do the profiles cross? Firstly, we need to find the differences between the cash flows for project L and project S at during each year. From the differences calculated, we will use the same IRR formula to find the discount rate at which the profiles cross. In this case, the discount rate that we get is 8.7%. Look at your NPV profile graph without actually referring to the actual NPVs and the IRRs. Which projects should be accepted if they are independent or mutually exclusive? Explain. Are your answers correct at any WACC less than 23.6%? Firstly, if the projects are independent, accept both projects since both projects have a positive value at WACC 10%. If the projects are mutually exclusive, accept those that have no conflicts between the NPV and the IRR. For example, for WACC less than 8.7%, the NPVL is more than the NPVS. However, the IRR for L is less than the IRR for S. So there is a conflict between NPV and the IRR. For WACC more than 8.7%, NPVS is more than NPVL, and the IRR for S is also more than the IRR for L. So this project has no project X has no conflict between the NPV and the IRR. So we have to choose project S. For WACC less than 23.6% for individual project, for project L, and the answer is correct at any WACC from 0% to 18.1% only. For project S, the answer is correct for WACC 0.0% 0% to 23.6%. For mutually independent project, the answer is correct at any WACC less than 23.6%.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Farahin, and now I will proceed to question F. So first question, what is the underlying cause of ranking conflicts between net present value and internal rate of return? So the conflicts may arise in case of mutually exclusive project, where one project has a higher NPV, but the other project has higher IRR. So the conflict either arises due to relative size of the project or timing differences exist. Second question, what is the investment rate assumption and how does it affect the NPV versus IRR conflict? The investment rate assumption stated that the NPV method assumes reinvestment at the WACC, while the IRR method assumes reinvestment at the IRR. It does affect the NPV versus IRR conflict because first, the NPV has no investment rate assumption, so the reinvestment rate will not change the outcome of the project. Second, the IRR has a reinvestment rate assumption that assumes that the company will reinvest cash inflows at the IRR's rate of return for the lifetime of the project. Third question, which method is best and why? So, the NPV method is the best because if projects are mutually exclusive and they differ in size, NPV will select the project that maximizes value. Question G. First question, define the term modified internal rate of return MIRR and find the MIRR for projects L and S. So, MIRR is the discount rate at which the present value of a project's cost is equal to the present value of its terminal value. And the terminal value is the sum of the future values of a cash inflows compounded at the firm's cost of capital. So to find the MIRR for both projects, we must to calculate the terminal value first. For project L has one outflow, negative $100 at time 0. So because it occurs at time 0, it is not discounted. Next, we find the future value of each inflow compounded at the WACC. For project L, the first cash flow is $10. It's compounded at WACC 10% for 2 years, and it grows to $12.10. Second cash flow, $60, grows to $66, and the last inflows, which is $80, is received at the end, so it is not compounded at all. So the sum of the future values, which is 80 plus 66 plus 12.10, is equal to $158.10 is called the terminal value for project L. And same goes to project S. We use the same ways to calculate the terminal value. So the sum of the future value or the terminal value for project S is $159.70. Then we find out the MIRR for both projects. So to find the MIRR for project L, using financial calculator, enter n equal to 3, present value equal to negative 100, future value is equal to $158.10. Then we press the interest per year key, and we get the MIRR for project L is 16.50%. And then we calculate MIRR for project S, and the answer is 16.89%. Second question, what are the MIRR's advantages and disadvantages vis-a-vis the NPV? So the advantages, first, it prevents all the shortcomings of IRR and NPV methods. It takes into consideration the practically possible investment rate. Second, it might avoid the multiple rate of return problems. And third, it is a better indicator of a project's profitability. For disadvantages, MIRR calculation might lead to problem when choosing the competing projects. For example, if the projects are mutually exclusive and differ in size, conflicts can occur.
Okay, next I will explain question H. First question is what is the payback period and find the payback for project L and S. Okay, the payback period is the number of time taken by the project for its net cash flows to become zero. Payback period for project L is here the cash inflows crosses the initial investment of 100 after year 2. To calculate payback period for project L is equal to plus in bracket 100 minus 10 minus 60 divided t equal 2.375 years. Okay, payback period for project S is here the cash inflows crosses the initial investment of 100 after year 1. To calculate payback period for project S is 1 plus in bracket 100 minus 70 divided 50 equal 1.6 years. For question 2 is, what is the rationale for the payback method? According to the payback criterion, which project should be accepted if the firm's maximum acceptable payback is 2 years? If project L and S are independent? If project L and S are mutually exclusive? Okay, the answer is the payback period signifies the time taken by the project to recover its initial investment. Project S must be selected in both cases since it has a lower payback period and well within the maximum acceptable payback period of 2 years. Third question is, what is the difference between the regular and discounted payback methods? In a regular payback method, we don't discount the cash flows to the PV to calculate the payback period. For example, the time value is not considered. In discounted payback method, however, we take the time value into consideration and discount the cash flows to the PV to calculate the discounted payback period. The last question for question H is, what are the two main disadvantages of discounted payback? Is the payback method PF any real usefulness in capital budgeting decisions? Okay, the answer is payback period doesn't take into consideration the time value of money. The value of cash flow might be different according to the time period in which they are realized, and the same is not considered in payback period. Also, the payback period neglects the cash flows received after the payback period. This is also a major disadvantage as this can critically affect the capital budgeting decisions. Okay, payback period is useful in capital budgeting decisions due to its ease of calculation, but only to get a rough idea of the project, as it has serious shortcomings as discussed in part 4.
So now I'm going to present to all of you for the question I. So for the first question, for question I, what is the project P and PV? What is the IRR and what is the MIRR, right? So to be concluded, the NPV is negative $385,000. And then how to calculate the IRR, which is the internal rate of return? For this project, we can calculate the IRR. Why? Because there are the multiple IRR. Why are there multiple IRR? Because at very low discount rates, the PV of cash flow 2 is large and negative, so NPV is less than 0. And at very high discount rates, the PV of both cash flow 1 and cash flow 2 are low. So cash flow 0 dominates, and again NPV is less than 0. So in between, the discount rate hits cash flow 2 harder than cash flow 1. So the NPV value is greater than 0. So it results for 2 IRR. I guess that you guys are unclear with this statement. So I'm going to show to you the next slide for the better explanation. So next, for the MIRR of project P. MIRR of project P is 5.6%, and it is found by calculating the discount rates that equates the terminal value of $5.5 million to the present value of cost $4.93 million. So it is shown that the MIRR value is 5.6%. Okay, for the next question is draw project P and PV profile, and does project P have normal or non-normal cash flows? Should this project be accepted? And explain. Okay, as you guys can see on this slide, I already put the NPV profile for the project P, and this is what I mean just now. There are multiple IRR. There are IRR1 and IRR2, right? So why are there multiple IRR? And I already explained just now. And why? Because as we all know that this project is non-normal cash flow. Why? Because as explained by Elinda just now, this project is a non-normal cash flow because this project have this project have more outflows after the inflow stream has begun. So as you guys can see, this project have for the first one is negative, and then positive, and then negative, right? So this is more outflows after the inflow stream has begun. So yeah, so this project is a non-normal cash flow. So as mentioned just now, this project, which is project B, has non-normal cash flow. That is, it has more than one change of signs in the cash flows. Without this non-normal cash flow pattern, we will not have the multiple IRRs. And since project P's NPV is negative, the project should be rejected, even though both IRR, which is 25% and 400%, are greater than projects WSCC, which is 10%. And the MIRR of 5.6% also supports the decision that the project should be rejected, because 5.6% is less than 10% of the WSCC. So that's all from me. I hope you guys clear with my explanation, and all my explanation is well explained. Thank you.